I'm Kevin Geary. I have 101 credits completed in a BA in sociology. Entering technical writing, I read the first 20 pages of a book at the library. The book was different than ours because it wasn't as abstract. Rather, the word is not abstract, but the book fulfilled their specific answer to the rhetorical situation. It was showing a student how to make something complicated like a manual. One of the examples that this book listed of technical writing was the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu and In the Art of War by Sun Tzu. Both these books are applied to the business world and are still relevant. John hit the ball. What is notable about this form of writing is that the sentence is clear and concise. John, one of the best baseball players in the game, hit the ball out of the park. The major problem with the way I put the sentence together is rhetorical. The audience would have to understand separately as a basic idea what the subject, verb, and object is. Ironically, I could say Fred's speech was a hit out of the park as an idiom. Without knowing the context of the idiom hit out of the park applied to baseball, then the audience would be left puzzled. How can I fix the sentence? John hit the ball with skill. This is another example, and who understands any of these sentences? The key thing to technical writing is writing persuasively to the audience. John hit the ball with skills contextual, even if you do not know what baseball is. Skills presented to the audience. Context is a creation of technical writing and is shared between the audience and the writer. A technical writer writing must frame the sentence, John hit the ball, because the context is the surrounding information. A technical writer essentially is a live person in the way that they must check that the information is being understood and matches the basic knowledge of the user. Subject, verb, object is a basic declarative sentence that children learn. Children start with the subject, mommy, mommy go, mommy sit, chair. Subject, verb, object, and the most basic development of being a human. We know logically that John must have some type of skill in hitting a ball. A technical term is pinch hitter, third baseman, home run hitter, power hitter, leadoff hitter. A good technical writer then writes rhetorically, ensuring that by the time we get to our example of John, the audience has an understanding of John and baseball. In the case of writing concisely, think subject, verb, object. Rhetoric ensures that each audience views John's baseball playing ability with skill because they can see the whole dimension of rhetoric. Hence, if you create a website, it is an effective tool to transport someone into the context of John playing baseball. The intro should teach everyone briefly what baseball is. When displaying a gallery of work, go above and beyond with the portfolio now that every user has some background information of baseball into John's personal career. Rhetorical writing is always persuasive because no matter what, you want the reader to understand your viewpoint or instruction and to feel confident in your ability to write. Probably the number one way to persuade any reader is to be prepared by providing the best document you can for the reader to read. Then the user will feel that your writing skills fulfills the rhetorical situation. To be persuasive as a technical writer is to be up to date. Ethically, a writer can write things as a paid worker that they are against. The book used an example of an ethical problem about a vegan writer writing about new methods to exploit animals for food at a supermarket. Ethically writing can take on different frameworks that all pose problems for the writer. In this example, rhetorical writing needs a lot of brainstorming for the writing to be persuasive and authentic. Again, subject, verb, object is the human rhetorical situation that the technical writer is answering, and the technical writer can do a lot to be prepared to write the best document. By understanding how your audience understands the content, the technical writer can then be effective at writing simple sentences of value. The key thing is to present your writing to the primary audience so they do not get frustrated. Preventing frustration for all audiences is to enable your writing to be scannable. Your document should have a printable PDF version where sections can be printed off. Your document should also have an online version where navigating the document should flow easily with access to an easy virtual index with specific headings, subheadings, and detailed bullet points so the document is specific. A bank brochure should look like a bank brochure and be not only informative but persuasive to your ability to provide a substantial document of value for the intended audience. A white paper is a common marketing document or position-oriented document and would have a gatekeeper audience and initial audience, and if it was approved, it would, for marketing of a product, it would have a watchdog audience. As a sociology major, I found the concept of white paper to be very interesting because it is a similar format to scholarly journals. When motivating the audience, solve a problem in the white paper by showing how the product or document is the best solution for the user. In my elevator pitch, I learned to create value for what I do. I learned to identify with the document like a workbook from Excel and show how I could bring value to the document. Reader benefits are, as the book states, suggestions that show readers how they will benefit by taking suggested action, which is page 121. Many will look at the results and conclusion of a document for exact answers, then read major sections, which is skimming, and most times documents aren't read fully necessarily. There is skill in technical writing. A solution finding email is different than a manual on how to use Microsoft Excel. In both examples, persuasion is used. What makes a good solution finding email, say to a professor, the email is formatted with a subject line. The email is set ideally in business block format with the body of mostly 3 small paragraphs to the left without an indent. A solution is proposed for time management. This solution finding email has a purpose. What is the purpose? You are providing a solution persuasively to a problem to meet the needs of all parties involved. Rhetoric is learning that a professor can get hundreds of emails a day. Rhetoric is that a professor can treat their email like business. With that information, your writing has a better purpose. So when we write a document, persuasion should be the #1 goal of your document. And that's why research is very important. Every aspect of the document is for the reader's benefit. Saying the solution allows for a quicker reply than having the professor have to take time to come up with their own solution. Purpose is an idea that is behind the person's actions. Plain language gets rid of what is confusing. Many documents are in need of a plain language interpretation. The audience may not lack an education when it comes to this PowerPoint example, and if they do, this format is the best for them. This format saves time. The audience is adults and children specifically here. The purpose of this writing is clear in the first sentence in the after section. The central point is lead in the water makes people sick, which concisely is followed by what is necessary health effects listed in bullet points utilizing the active voice. The reader was directly involved in the formative persuasive message, with the you being the key word. During the coronavirus, isn't it easier to read the creative plain language example than the traditional formatted information? Plain language saves lives. Essentially, the after example is creatively put in plain language because it makes for the best example of coherence. Notice water is used in the after example as drinking water, hence action. In the active voice, John hit the ball, not the ball was hit by John, which would be a passive voice. Writing is to produce the most concise, cohesive, clarifying document, and to do so is to be coherent and to focus on creativity. Knowing exactly who your audience means doing some research into the people who will be using your document as the primary audience. What is their experience regarding the documents? Was there any major gap that was closed that a secondary audience was interested in understanding from my document? What observations of the users have you gained? What would an expert have to say? Researching the human subject and subject matter is necessary to produce the best document. The technical writer is extensive in conducting research into people as subjects of their document to understand the connection to people like Gina and Carl. We see how computer software programs are probably the targeted subject matter. Gina and Carl's age, education, computer science skills can provide insight into how relevant documents and computer software is to them. Both are basic users of Dreamweaver. A simple open-ended survey could follow through if they have any big plans to want to learn from a technical document. Having them test a new software out as a basic user can produce great primary research into the types of knowledge and questions that they have. To gain a solid technical writing document may take a lot of research and even collaboration, and could be considered a major project regarding employment. Primary research and secondary research is vital to the technical writer because they are trained to collect up-to-date information. To clarify, if I conducted a literature found a survey and used that survey to collect new current data of people in New Jersey, that type of research would be considered primary research with a citation of the survey. Research from an old survey or a study is excellent because it checks the validity of the existing secondary literature and keeps the technical writer current. The book lists to prepare for an interview by having questions ready with extra questions with a good format, conduct the interview, taking notes, being an active listener, and writing up the interview, which may pertain to audio recording or analyzing your notebook structure to produce an actual document. The key thing to a survey interview and having data published is built around quality questions. There's open-ended questions and closed-ended questions. In an interview, the subject matter expert can provide valuable qualitative insight into your questions. The book emphasizes that an interview does not utilize closed-ended questions that produce yes or no responses. Yes or no questions can produce a lot of quantitative data. They utilize open-ended questions because they focus on answering questions that you do not understand but would like expert knowledge on these questions specifically. The technical writer, through well-written questions, becomes contextual in how they are an expert on translating a foreign issue into plain English with skill. What are concise questions as we learn to think concisely as a major theme of technical writing? Now that we know what open-ended and close-ended questions are, interviewing a subject expert follows a format of basic questions to more specific questions. These questions flow like an interview as an active listener, attentive to contextually understanding in your own words and accurate understanding of something complex. On the other hand, a survey that uses close-ended questions can produce large amounts of quantitative data. From this data, a more in-depth user profile survey can include more open-ended questions. With an interview, the technical writer is a medium between the complex and rewording of the document to be understood. When asking specific questions, make sure to do your homework on the technical terms. The specific has to be broken down into clear, concise technical writing. Also, the book says to control the interview because an expert might specifically talk too much about something that they find interesting. In this case, get the interviewee back on track to your goal of getting specific information to answer your questions. To be specific can produce many problems, but to be concise in your questions should solve the problem. A loaded question can be unethical. An example, have you stopped using AI to complete your homework assignments? That's a question. Ethics in research is built around respecting the autonomy of the interviewee. This loaded question assumes something that, even if it was true, might be violating the participant's ethical rights. Ethics values the participant's ability to answer all questions, whether open-ended or close-ended, in a respectful way. Open-ended are questions that is specific. They can elaborate. Close-ended questions get yes or no. They might have a Likert scale. They strongly agree, strongly disagree. Those are close-ended questions, whereas an open-ended question might be harder to put into Microsoft Excel because they're harder to code because they're qualitative, that they could say anything, especially when it's an expert and you're viewing different people. Know your audience and try out different visuals. Have your bar chart do all the talking. And by the way, my example is not in plain language that I have. Label the access. Use the same colors for each bar for scanning. Highlight the story of the major bar or major bars. Use labels. Use titles with an active voice into the future. A good title is technical writing because it must be made with creativity. I chose bar charts because of how common they are. I also really like PPC Expo's creative title, and it's the reason why I clicked on it. The title is Bar Chart, make the insight impossible to ignore. Bar charts can have a large audience, so make sure to enable the conversation as a technical writer. Data must be properly communicated at all times with a proper lead from the writer with a rhetorical situation in mind. Thank you. Technical writing is a scientific tool at writing the best persuasive document that you can write. So cheers to happy writing.